Points.
Buongiorno, and welcome to another episode of the Broad Points Podcast. We made it, you guys. I am your host. I am the broad that points. I am the broad with the points. It's me, Tyler, the lady. And yes, it has been some weeks. I don't know who's keeping track. Definitely not me, as I was on vacation in full 110,000% vacation mode. I was. Minus the fact that I've worked in travel. Let's talk about this. I've worked in travel for a lot of years now. When everybody else decided that they wanted to go to college, I decided that I wanted to go to travel school because I thought that if you worked in travel, you would get to travel a lot. And it turns out that that varies. It really does depend on what you want to do and how you want to live your life. There are some very interesting lifestyles, varying lifestyles amongst the different divisions, if you will, of travel. If you are working for a cruise line, you could be on a cruise gone for, weeks at a time, sometimes months at a time. And, that's just, you have to be committed to that. I thought originally when I went to travel school that I was going to be a flight attendant. I was like, oh, if I'm a flight attendant, then I just get free flights, one to wherever I'm taking people. Sometimes you get some layovers, so you get to experience wherever you're laid over at. And then additionally, you get a free seat usually to go wherever you want when you're not working. So that really seemed like I wanted that lifestyle. Then come to find out, during school, I got trained to do all of the things. I'm well versed in all of the different modes of travel and the travel industry. Flight attendants, it's just such a grim state of mind, honestly. The first 2 minutes and the last 2 minutes of every flight, you have to think about what happens if the plane crashes, which is just not a way that I like to live my life. Not to mention, you have to live in a hub city. Do you know what a hub city is? I didn't know about hub cities. I just thought you could kind of live wherever you lived, hopefully in a well-populated area, and then, somewhere that you wanted to be. I didn't know you'd have to possibly move, to Georgia. Or no offense, Georgia. If you're living in Georgia and you're hearing this, I've never been. I really can't say, I just knew that that wasn't on my bingo card. That wasn't where I wanted to go personally. And, if you didn't want to live in that particular place, you could try to fly in, live somewhere else and then fly in before your shift. It's just with inclement weather and varying weather patterns, it just really isn't ideal. You do want to kind of live wherever you're working. And so I decided that was not for me. Then I work in the technical side now. I started in the technical side of building online booking tools, for varying clientele. And then I was also a travel agent. So I do have travel agent knowledge. And so I am very blessed to have this knowledge, and we will get into it. We are going to talk about my travels this episode. So strap in. Please make notice of your nearest exit, as it may be behind you, and please keep your seatbelt fastened at all times, especially if you're driving when listening to this. We don't want to get a ticket. But it was a really beautiful trip. I'm going to start it off with that. I just had a lot of fun. I do want to mention, some safety tips. I like to start this off with some safety tips. If you're traveling alone, And if you're traveling with a group too, it's always good to just, keep your head on a swivel, listen to your intuition, be mindful, aware of your surroundings, just so that way, you're prepared for whatever happens, whatever goes on. And in addition to that, it's really easy to bring little things with you for safety when you're on trips, especially if you're alone. And these two things, I'm only going to recommend two things here. It's two of the easiest things to possibly travel with. It is a doorstop, because if you're in an Airbnb, if you're in a hostel, if you're in a hotel, people know how to pick locks. People who work at hotels, they're trained to get in through the, deadbolts or whatever locks they have there for you, just in case of an emergency. Now, we don't have to be all paranoid and freaked out all the time. However, if we bring a doorstop simply just goes underneath of the door. If somebody was trying to get into your room and you were sleeping, this would give you enough time. They would have to make enough noise because the doorstop would prevent them from actually opening the door. You would hear them coming in, so you could prepare yourself. So just a real easy thing to carry around, doorstop. The other thing is, just for privacy, people, I'm not saying everybody in the world is malicious, but I'm saying maybe we enjoy our privacy. This next tool is really it's just an eye hole cover. You could just buy these things off of Amazon. They're like no dollars. They're very small, very easy to pack. I know that a lot of people are lightweight packers. That's not me, but these two things are so lightweight, especially if you're traveling alone. Two great additions to your bag. And with those safety tips, I think we should also jump into the fundamental phrase for this week, because it ties in perfectly with my travels and the stories that I will tell in this episode. So, with that, the fundamental phrase for the week is, this is what we train for. This is what we train for! Seriously, you guys, preparation, it is our friend. Training in advance is our friend. I mean, I just mentioned, the fact that I'm not necessarily the best lightweight packer. This trip, I really pushed myself to pack as light as I possibly could. My bags were still so extremely heavy, but I only brought a backpack and a duffel bag. I brought also a whole bunch of bags in the bags. My coworker was like, "You're not a crazy bag lady, but you're a bag lady." And I was like, it's so true, because I love bags. So fun little tip. I just got a bunch of tips for you today, I guess. When you're packing, if you don't have compression bags, they're like packing cubes, maybe is what you've heard them called as, but they compress your clothes down and it makes it so that you can have more in less space. If you don't have those, you can roll all of your clothing and it saves you space. It also makes your bags so dense. The weight, it really sneaks up on you. I mean, I was so proud of myself. I'm a big Kavu fan. They don't even sponsor me, but I love Kavu so much. Any of my girlfriends who have come over to my house have seen my Kavu collection of bags. I couldn't even tell you how many Kavu bags I had. I decided to get a Kavu backpack. It is a really cool backpack. It's got a clamshell design, so you open it up and then it has compression compartments within the bag itself, which is just really cool because you don't even need the compression cubes or, those packing squares starting off, as this bag is already trying to take care of you. I, however, like to push the limits of all of the bags that I pack. And so I was packing all of my clothes, packing all of my cosmetics into cosmetics. Like I have more than I used 3 things on my trip for cosmetics. I did pack a makeup bag that also had nail file, nail clippers, a gua sha for my face, which I didn't even use. I packed all of this stuff. I'm so of the mind of I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And so, it just really, I maybe had a little bit excess. Okay, I definitely had more than excess. I had more than enough is what we'll call it. But I carried it all the entire time. And if I had not been training, right? We talk about dancing. We talk about the walks that I go on. We talk about, just general movement and mobility practices. I'm constantly training to test my body, to be in situations in life that I want to be in. By the way, I love to travel. I love to see the world. I also love efficiency. Moving around in Europe, dragging a giant suitcase, it's not really convenient. It is in no way efficient, especially when you get on the cobblestone roads. I was joking with Matt every time we were on a cobblestone road. I'm like, do you see how cobbled this is? Do you see how cobbled together these stones are? Look at the cobbliness of these stones. And then I would think about if I had had a suitcase on wheels that I was just dragging around with me and just flipping all over the place, when it starts to jiggle back and forth in the handle, you're like, oh my gosh, is the handle gonna break out of this thing? I don't want to deal with that. I saw some people with massive suitcases as big as their children, and they're dragging these suitcases around. It's just not my lifestyle. If that's you, that is fine, but that is not what I wanted to live. And I love backpacking in the wilderness, so I figured why not travel with a backpack this trip and a duffel bag. My thought was if I needed to check a bag on the way back, if I bought a bunch of stuff, or if I bought things that were larger, then I thought, I could just have it checked back on the plane. I didn't even do that. Honestly, I think the amount of stuff that I used and then, was rid of in my suitcase and the amount of things and the size of things that I did purchase, it was just kind of an even wash. So I just kind of carried the same amount of weight throughout the entire trip. And if I had not been training and stuff, I would not have been able to do this. I will tell you for sure. Even just the mental component of things is huge. And meditation is great for that. Walking, meditation is great for that. I mean, it was a lot of walking with excess weight on. And I will say one thing that could have improved on this Kavu backpack is having a hip strap. I think that could have distributed the weight a little more evenly across my body, because it was really nice shoulder straps and then a chest strap, which I thought would be okay. But because I also had a purse that's like a sling bag that goes across the chest, and then my duffel bag, which is another across the body strap, it's all stuff that there's nobody going to be able to take this stuff away from me. It is so fixed to my body. However, it's also not the most comfortable. My purse straps, the duffel bag straps, that was an oversight. I didn't even think about, the edges of those straps and maybe wanting, something else to go around those straps. So, some advice from somebody who just did it, maybe think about straps. Think about the way that if you are going to have a backpack, how it's going to be distributed, that weight is going to be distributed, and how you're going to carry it, how it's going to feel when you're walking. I also really love REI. We just had one put in the desert here within the last, I'm going to say year, but time flies for me, so don't quote me on that. But I love them so much. They are so wonderful. If you want to go test out like backpacking backpacks for real, they will let you try them on. They have these like funny little rock structures that you can like walk up, like carrying the backpack, so that you can see if that is something that will actually be a reasonable bag for you. If that's something that's going to accommodate your body structure, your abilities, and, you know, the way that you like to pack. For me, it was a very fun trip. It was every time I needed to pack, I would do a pre-pack to give myself peace of mind, because I just wanted to make sure that everything would fit. And by doing that, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but by doing the pre-pack, I was able to, again, we're training for the event. We're making sure that it's all going to work out. And so I would do a pre-pack. Before the trip, I did a pre-pack. Every time we were going to transfer to a different location, I would do a pre-pack. And by doing the pre-pack, I had such peace of mind. I was like, everything will fit. I can carry it. It's going to be all right. And so in the moments where I was maybe standing for a little longer or walking for a little bit longer or being rained on, Paris, what the heck? You know, I was able to dial in to my mental story and, you know, access some states of relaxation, or at least some states of confidence in my ability to make it through. I was like, we have survived 100% of our worst days. A little rain or, you know, a little weight or a little discomfort is nothing. And I know that comparison can be the thief of joy. Also, it can just bring you a little bit of realism. Not everything is the end of the world. Not everything has to ruin your life. We can make it. You can do it. We could do it. We got this. So let's jump into this trip, eh? Where the heck did I go? Now that you know about my packing habits and my backpack preferences, where the heck did I go? Well, we started off in London, which was a trip of a lifetime. Honestly, I have wanted to go to London for my whole entire existence. I have dreamed of having afternoon tea, which I did. And, you know, I always thought that Wembley was such a cool stadium. I did not have on my bingo card that we would get to see Linkin Park there. And, you know, for Matt to be able to go out and buy those tickets for us, and then for us to be able to align this trip with our friend's trip. We have a beloved friend of ours who is a traveling madman, honestly. He's so cool. He started a bicycling trip down in Australia and was planning to bicycle all the way up through Asia, through the Mediterranean, and end in Amsterdam. And that trip was disrupted by the pandemic. And so he had been itching to get back. I had been talking to him for years about how he was going to go back and how he was going to finish in Amsterdam. And so I always like to put out travel suggestions to people. If you choose to follow through on said travel plans with me, if you act serious, I will seriously follow through. I love to travel. I love to meet friends' places. If I have friends that live in different locations, I absolutely go to travel to see them. I love to see where people live. I love to experience different cultures and communities, and just honestly to show up for my friends and let them know how much I love them and how much friendship means to me. I mean, I've gone to some very funny places, some places that I never thought I would have gone to see friends. And, you know, that's just who I am. So I kept suggesting to him that he book this trip and that we meet him at the end of his trip in Amsterdam, because I've been itching to go back to Amsterdam since I left Amsterdam, honestly. I loved it so much. And so he finally, decides he's going to do it this year. And Matt, last year, had booked Lincoln Park for June, end of June. And so we were like, okay, so we might not be seeing you at the end of your trip, but what about at the beginning of your trip? And so he was talking about how he was going to start down in Milan. I was like, all right, cool. We'll meet you in Milan then. So we started our trip in London. An amazing time there. I have 2 words and a restaurant for every place that we went to. Maybe a story as well, but I have tea and Lincoln Park for London. And I mean, Lincoln Park was incredible. I cannot believe that we were able to be in Wembley. I had, honestly, some of the best sour candy. No, I will say this. I had the best sour candy of the entire trip at Wembley Stadium. They have the candy stands in the stadium where you can just get a cup, size of your choosing, and you can fill it with whatever candy you want. And I love sour candies. Like, give me a good sour candy. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. I don't even remember what all of the candies were called, but I was just getting as many sour candies as I possibly could. They were incredible. It was incredible. And, the performance was unreal. The crowd was crazy. There was like a guy just like laying in the middle of the pit, laying before the show. And it just made me very uncomfortable. I was very afraid for him, and people kept going up to him asking if he was all right. The security guard comes up to him and asked him if he was all right, and then he goes over, he's like, I'm fine, I'm doing great, I'm just sleeping in the middle of a concert. It was very strange. Then he gets up and goes to the side, and you can see he's not okay. He's like looking like the puke face was upon him. It was not good. It didn't look good. Then he disappeared in the crowd. Never saw him again. But the trick with Wembley is you have to take a train or a subway, whatever you want to call their rail system. You have to take that back to where you're going. And Wembley fits thousands of people. Like, I live in the Coachella Valley. It is like all of Coachella Valley just in one stadium. It was so crazy. So you got to leave a little early unless you want to be in it. I mean, we saw videos of people who were just in it afterwards, and I mean, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. They were like all just singing together, and I mean, I don't know how long it took them to get home, but we were running. I mean, it's good to be prepared. Again, we train from, running across streets and dodging cars to, running for trains in other countries. Life, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And so it's really good to, focus on, our health and our bodies and, just preparing for life. Like, life happens and we use our bodies and our minds in so many different ways. And yeah, London was really great. I just had a really great time. And for tea, we went to the Aqua Shard, which is 31 floors above London, and you get to look out over London and drink your tea. They had Peter Pan tea time. So they bring out, your sandwiches and it's on the clock, and then they bring out your desserts and your pastries on Captain Hook's ship, which then has like dry ice in it and it's all foggy and cool, and 31 floors above London. It was insane. I had such an amazing time in London. And then before we knew it, I mean, there was lots of things. I could honestly do probably an episode for each location because it was so much fun. And I mean, just incredible. Lots of characters. I mean, the restaurant, I'll say here, I know there's just so many different places. We came in hot. We got Indian food and went to a place called Dishoom. Everything was incredible. Everything was incredible. They had a dal that was like fermented or like prepared in a stone for 24 hours. Like, just insane. It was crazy. It was so good. Then we go off to Amsterdam, back to my beloved Amsterdam, and our location was so cool. We were by the flower market this time. Last time we had stayed out in like kind of the museum quarter, which was also very cool, where we're right by the street market where like Rudy's Stroopwafels are. Oh, so good. Such good stroopwafels. This time we were by the flower market. Lots of cool things by the flower market. Lots of coffee shops, lots of flowers, lots of just shops and candy shops and crazy things there. We made our own Tony's Chocolonely there, right? So my 2 words for Amsterdam were chocolate and coffee. I drink a lot of coffee, and I made my own chocolate. And my chocolate was, I'll describe to you my chocolate here. It was a mix of white chocolate and milk chocolate, because I'm half white, half Mexican. And then the fillings, or, things that were in it, were popping candy, because I'm a little poppy, sea salt, because I'm a little salty, and nougat, because everybody loves my nougaty inside. It was really cool. We got to design the wrapper, pick all the colors that went on it. Honestly, it was really fun. It basically cost no euros. They give you, there's a little free sample of Tony's when you walk in. It's fun. It's stupid. It was just, I was dying, honestly, to go back and have Ethiopian food. This was seriously one of my biggest motivations. The last time that we went to Amsterdam, we were introduced to the best Ethiopian restaurant that I have ever been to. And, oh my gosh, I had been dreaming of getting back to this place. And when we do, we stumble upon the Doghouse, which is a coffee shop. It's Snoop Dogg's coffee shop. Yes, on our way to go and consume the best Ethiopian I've ever consumed in my entire life, we walk by the Doghouse. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we must go there on the way home. So just everything just falls into place on these trips. Like, you don't have to plan every single thing. Honestly, I think we maybe planned like one thing a day max. There was multiple days throughout the trip where we had absolutely nothing planned, and it just allowed us to just kind of wander and find new things and meet new people and just experience new things. It was really wonderful. We go have this Ethiopian food. It is insane how good it is. It's just like even better than I could remember. We have no good places around here, and it crushes me, absolutely crushes me. There were some good places up in Seattle, in the Central District. You guys, if you live in Seattle, please go get Ethiopian food. It is so good. Not as good as Amsterdam, but still so good. Should be recognized. Should be eaten more. Because once you don't have it in your immediate vicinity, it is absolutely devastating. It really is. And, after that, going to Snoop Dogg's coffee shop, being there, it was a really good time. I can't believe that we stumbled upon that. It wasn't open. It wasn't there the last time we were in Amsterdam. So, I was kind of thinking like, oh, what else are we going to be able to do in Amsterdam? We went to the Bodies Museum. That was fascinating. Oh my gosh, the human body is insane. It goes through just all of the things. It also talks about happiness and how we are active participants in choosing our happiness and supporting our bodies, which I think is just so important. It is crucial to recognize that we are in control. Sure, there are a lot of external factors out there in the world, but we are in control of our bodies. We are in control of our minds. And that, we get to choose to show up and do the things that we want to do when we prepare for them. Also financially, you got to make that. You got to prepare there as well. You can't just be, charging everything up. I'm very proud of myself actually for being able to save up and, pay off this trip. I mean, I don't have any debt from this trip. I may have some debt from some other things that I'm paying off as a responsible adult does, but not from this trip. I budgeted so good for this trip. I'm very proud of myself. So tooting my own horn there. Next, we transfer to go to Paris. Honestly, I could have skipped it. I'm just going to be real here. Paris isn't my favorite place. It wasn't my favorite place when I went when I was 15. It wasn't my favorite place when we went this time. Honestly, if I had to pick, it might be Zurich. But Zurich and Amsterdam are very close. I love them both so much. But we'll get into Zurich in a minute. Paris, I wanted to go see the Louvre. We did that. We went to a fabulous restaurant that was called L'Ami Jean. My friend Jean. It was really good. The space in Paris was probably the toughest of the trip. When we showed up, I booked a tiny hotel there. I'm not going to say the name of the hotel because it was so tiny. It was honestly kind of uncomfortable. And the air conditioning didn't work the first night. And Paris was hot when we rolled in. So to not have air conditioning for the first night in basically a closet was a little claustrophobic. Like Matt and I fitting in to the elevator we both had backpacks. We both had duffel bags. Like, it was so tight. It was hysterical. And so, that was tough. Everywhere, though, was like that. Every single restaurant we went to, it was so tiny. And just getting in and maneuvering around tables, it was honestly uncomfortable. I have, we'll call it situational claustrophobia. If I'm in a tight elevator, if I'm in a crowded mall, if I'm in Paris, apparently. Just kind of everywhere. Even the sidewalks were all crowded. I understand a little bit why people are so sick of tourists over there, because I was sick of tourists over there. And, just more tips here, of course, because we're just flinging them out like Oprah. You get a tip, you get a tip, you get a tip. This tip is don't be on your phones in the middle of the sidewalk, slowing traffic down. Don't stop randomly in the middle of the walkway. Just be mindful, you guys. This goes back to being aware of your surroundings. Also, be mindful. Right? We don't need to block everybody's way. If you don't know where you're going, that's understandable. Pull over to the side. Pull over to the side. It's really not that hard. Just look around for an available opening and then seize that opportunity and figure your life out of my way. Maybe it's because we live in a town that there's also tourists, but the tourists here, there's one, so much space. Two, people are mindful. Usually it's just not a big deal. You don't have to be a part of the problem. One of my friends at one point was we were walking and he asked me if I could turn on my hotspot so he could look at his phone. And I said, no, I will not do that. And he said, I was just going to use a hotspot. I was like, no, I will not be a part of the problem. By giving you the hotspot, I'm enabling you to be on your phone while we're walking. And I refuse to be a part of the problem. I refuse to contribute to more people being on their phones in the middle of the walkway. It's so impractical. It's rude. Don't be rude. So I was very happy to leave Paris once we were finally able to leave Paris. And of course, Paris, it poured so hard on us when we were walking to the train station. Yes, it did. It was just the farewell that it wanted to give us. I will go back to France. I will go to the south of France. I can't say that I will ever go back to Paris again. I understand some people love Paris. I went to the Eiffel Tower. It's still the big giant thing standing there with a lot of people trying to sell you stuff. Like, not great. Not great. If you buy those things, by the way, and a police officer is around, you get in trouble. So, like, don't buy things. Be aware. Be mindful of your surroundings. Then we finally get to Zurich. We get to Zurich, and I can't remember at what point, too, during this. It might have been earlier in the trip. I'm notified that our last train from Zurich to Milan is canceled due to a strike. So this is like going on in my mind. I'm also trying to figure out this like train thing in the back of my mind here. We get to Zurich. We get to Zurich. I have a different train booked from the original train. That train also gets canceled. But Zurich is too beautiful for me to care, honestly. I am dying to go back to Switzerland. Leaving Switzerland was the hardest place to leave on the entire trip. We lived a life of luxury and relaxation there. We had no plans. We stumbled through Zurich into Old Town and found a raclette restaurant. Do you know about raclette? It's the cheese wheel that they like scrape off the cheese, once it's all bubbly and hot onto, either your potatoes or your bread. Oh my gosh, I'd been dying to try one of these places. Had no idea that was what we were going to have. We actually were walking to go to a fondue place. That fondue place was closed. Wandered further, found this place. Happiest accident of my entire life. It was so good. Raclette, the way the cheese is like cared for, it has like the protein and the amino acids, it just all these crazy nutrients that I was just very excited that we were able to indulge in. And so that was incredible there. And then we went to the thermal spa. I want a thermal spa here. I want a thermal spa everywhere that I go. They're just incredible. Just these giant, basically, pools of water, mineral water that has all these different jets and seating configurations to just really fully relax and enjoy life. And it was just so beautiful. I never wanted to leave. We did it twice. The first day we did just the thermal bath. The second day we did the Roman Irish baths, which is like 10 different stations, I want to say, that you go through, including steam rooms and hot stones to lay on, varying different pools, exfoliation. It was nuts. I loved it. And then we went back to the thermal baths because on the thermal bath side, there's actually a rooftop thermal bath. There's one inside and there's a rooftop one as well. And from the rooftop, you could just see all of Zurich. It was insane. So we really lived it up there because we sealed it off with the best dinner probably of the entire trip. We went to a place called Restaurant Woshi. Restaurant Woshi is a Michelin-rated restaurant that has a surprise menu. Surprise! And so we just said we want 5 courses, and then they proceeded to bring us out 7 courses because they gave us a hello and a goodbye from the staff, which was out of this world. Everything that we ate, like, I took no pictures because I was just, I'm going to be fully present in this moment. They had non-alcoholic rosé, which I am a rosé girl. I've always been a rosé girl. I just don't drink alcohol anymore. So to have non-alcoholic rosé was just, it felt so extravagant. I was just living my fanciest of lifestyles, indulging in cuisine that I never would have even thought of. And the preparation on these dishes and the combination of colors and textures and flavors, it was It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. If you want to just blow some dollars on a restaurant, this is the restaurant. It is one of the best restaurants I've ever been to in my entire life. Restaurant Woshi. Then we had to leave Zurich, and I was so sad, you guys. I was so sad. I might have even shed tears leaving Zurich. I was able to get us a train. The strike ended at 6 p.m. Here's what I found out. When strikes end at 6 p.m., routes proceed as normal for the rest of the day. So there was a 7:33 train. We ended up catching a sunset train ride through the Swiss Alps. It was incredible. It was breathtaking. I wanted to just take all of the pictures that I possibly could. I wanted to draw all of the things because it was just inspirational. Honestly, the environment there, the scenery, I just could drink that in forever. It was so beautiful. And then we get to Milan, which is slightly more crowded and more confusing. We had no plans other than to meet our friend. We got in close to midnight, which was pretty nuts. And, it was not what we thought it was going to be. I mean, we thought we were going to have, an extra day, a full day, honestly. We lost a full day because our flights leaving had been rescheduled to earlier. We were supposed to leave in the afternoon and ended up having to leave at 7 a.m. So we left Milan at 5 a.m. to go to the airport. It was crazy. And getting there, we lost that whole day. I mean, we're supposed to get there around noon. We didn't end up getting there until close to midnight. And so we get up, and we're not even up. We stay up, find our friend. I happen to be having horrible anxiety about him because he's riding his bicycle from an airport that he said he had to ride 60 kilometers from. And I wasn't anticipating that he was going to have to do that. But the strike affected everybody's travel. We had backup plans. He had his bike. He was ready to ride it. We had booked multiple different trains to be able to accommodate. If that didn't work out, I knew that there were flights and car rentals and other things that could happen. But we made it happen. We had a backup plan. And so we all meet, and then we just walk around. I think we were up that night until 3 a.m. or so. And so the next day, I forced myself to get up before 10 o'clock at 9:53 a.m. and was like, I have to get up. This is my only day of being here. And, we got to wander around and see the town. I had been there before, but I didn't fully remember it. I did remember the Duomo, which is this giant cathedral. Honestly, one of the most beautiful things to do there is just see this cathedral. And then we went and had snooty coffee, which was hilarious. One of the best pictures of the trip is all of us having snooty coffee. And, we got to walk around this castle until 3 a.m. And, we got to just kind of ping pong around the town until, we had to leave. And we went to a restaurant there that was Osteria La Vecchia Lira. And we all shared these different plates. One was a crispy risotto that was filled with cheese. It was absolutely decadent. And then we had a Chateaubriand. And our waiter, who came through for us with multiple baskets of focaccia bread, was just hysterical. Wonderful service on his behalf. Zurich, I think, wins for, service on all of the restaurants. I mean, we stumbled into a little tea place there too, had cappuccinos, crazy good staff, just so loving. I could go on about Zurich forever. I will be going back. Milan, it was good. This guy, wonderful. And then, we get to go home, and of course all of our flights are delayed because there's a strike. Because we dealt with a train strike, we had to deal with an air strike too. And so every single one of our flights was delayed on the way home. But I have traveled enough to know that, buy a phone plan, make sure your phone works so that you have service to get notifications about your flights and your trains and any other modes of transportation that you are going to be engaging in on your travels. Because I was able to know when our trains were canceled, how long the strike was happening for, and when we would be able to go to Milan. And then on the way home from Milan, I knew all of our flights. One, I changed our flights before we left because it had been canceled and not rescheduled, which is a problem. So keep an eye on your email beforehand. Also, during the trip, we knew when flights were delayed. We knew how much time we had to go and relax at a restaurant, decompress, try and get some of that adrenaline and cortisol to be calmed, removed from our body. We don't need to constantly be running around freaking out. We can look and see the flight is going to be an hour delayed and say, okay, I'm going to go have a non-alcoholic beer. I'm going to go eat some nachos. And that is just what it is. All we have to do, you guys, mentally prepare. And also physically prepare. Throughout this entire journey, I wore my Xero shoes. I wore my Xero Dylan leather shoes for the most of it. I also wore my black canvas. I did bring another pair of yoga mat sandals that I just wore very briefly, honestly, mostly for transition. And so it was really great. If you want to walk around in some Xero shoes on your next journey and you want to buy them using my affiliate link so that you can also pay me when you do it, it is xeroshoes.com/go/Tyler the Lady. And if you want to reach out to me on social media, if you want to see some of the pictures that I'm going to post about this trip, you absolutely can at Broadpoints or at Tyler the Lady. And if you hate social media, I get it. You can reach out to me via email. My email is broadpointspodcast@gmail.com. Now, let's wrap this baby up. Let's put a bow on it. Let's hear that fundamental phrase for the week one more time. This is what we train for.